Got it. We are live. We are on.
It's my page. We're on. Back. All right, so we are back with 2 weeks in a row. We haven't done 2 weeks in a row in some months now.
Yeah.
All right, so we are back. I can hear myself. It's really awkward. It's like, you know, when you hear your own voice, it's like, do I really sound like that? I don't sound like that. Like when I talk and I hear it in my head, right? You hear it from somewhere else. It's like, oh shit. Do I have that much? I don't have as much bass in my voice as I thought I do. This is really awkward there. But so anywho, we're back. We're in this thing. We are week 2 of kind of digesting what we've got going on in this country. So again, if you don't know, this is Where's George podcast. You've got Eugene.
I'm George. I think we're in there good. Okay. I gotta make sure my lights get too sometimes. All right.
So
today we are talking about stuff. We're talking about these workers that don't want to work. Lord.
So if you missed last week's podcast, so we kind of ended things off, and I was going on a bit of a rant about trying to find good workers, trying to find somebody who actually gives a damn, and I think that's kind of it puts a lot of it's a huge what they call a political divide when we talk about workers and workers' rights and workers' compensation. And so we're kind of at this point now, and I'll let George kind of go into it and I'll give my perspective, but of where we are now as an economy, where we are as industries and where we're struggling and why we can't get people back in it. But yeah, go ahead and pick it up, George.
Well, I mean, I guess the topic really comes down to, I don't know if there's even a side of the aisle anymore when it comes to it, but we have a serious problem in our country. And I think it's also affecting the world, right? So this is the first time, I think, in a long time where labor is at a premium because people don't have to work based on some of the government programs that have been put in place. I think we've talked about a number of them, throughout our podcast, right? I'm not going to say that we were wrong on any of them. I think that the government did the right thing in trying to supplement some incomes. But I think we probably both agree that the timing now is just too long. And there was never an exit strategy for us to stop all this, right? So people we're getting, I don't know if maybe there's some states that are still upholding the supplemental unemployment income. People are not being put out of their homes if they're not paying their rent, I want to make sure everyone understands it's forbearance and it's not a forgiveness program when it comes to that. So, and for those who don't understand what forbearance means, it just means, okay, you don't have to pay, but the tab is still being
the meter's still running. Yeah.
Right. The tab is still running up. And if you've gone a year and a half without, paying your rent, that means you've got a year and a half worth of rent due when it's all done, said and done. Mm-hmm. So, we, on the last podcast, I'm an individual contributor. I, at one time, had employees, but Eugene is on the opposite side of that, where he is a hiring manager and does have employees. And so he was describing his challenges in just getting people. I would say probably the people that he hire, probably, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, range from unskilled to skilled work. But at this point in time, it doesn't matter. All of those people, unskilled or skilled, are at a premium as far as how much they're getting paid. Probably the most they've ever been paid at those particular jobs, right? And people are coming in, applying, getting the job, and still not coming into work because, why come into work when the government's paying for X, Y, and Z? And then I know a conversation that I had was, if you come into work, and Eugene works not in a store, so in a warehouse, and typically warehouses, especially 24-hour ones, if you're the new guy on the floor, you're third shift. So why would I come in at midnight to come work when I can sit on my butt at home and not come in at midnight and get a good night's sleep? And so Eugene's not unique in this, because once again, I've had conversation after conversation after conversation with different people in different industries, and it's all basically the same.
Yeah.
So why don't you kind of expand on your experience again, maybe just a quick recap of maybe what we talked about last week, and then we can just kind of, discuss, or give our opinions on, maybe what do we think the right course would be, and what do we need to do now, or what do we see the future being?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm socially liberal, but I would say I'm very physically conservative, right? And so I'm all about, being fair to the worker. I'm all about being fair in your compensation, but also think you really have to know, and this is probably where I'm gonna sound more like a Republican. You got to understand what value you add, right? Or how much you're worth. Perfect example. So I had an intern that interned with me this summer. And so we pay our interns a salary, or if they were to stay here for a year, they get paid $55,000 for the year, right? So whatever that comes out to the 3 months that they were there. And so my intern, he is a junior or rising senior at Michigan State. And he tells me that when he graduated, he said, one, Walmart's not paying him enough to be an intern. I think I said nigga please to him out loud a few times. But then he said that when he graduates, that he will not accept a job less than $100,000 a year. And so me and him had a very kind of off the cheek kind of conversation. It was one of them conversations where I closed my door, unbutton the butt top of my shirt, and really trying to have a serious conversation with this young man, young Black man too, mind you. And I said, dude, you're not worth $100,000. Well, what do you mean I'm not worth $100,000? I said, dude, you have zero work experience. You have a college degree. Yeah. I said, but there's, just because you have a college degree, there's a million other people out there with college degrees. Unfortunately, bachelor's degrees have been so watered down, right, wrong, or indifferent. And we can talk about that another time too, but they're so watered down. They don't mean as much as they did 15, 20 years ago. There was a time where a high school diploma was the capstone of education. You got a high school diploma, you were it. There was a time where if you got a bachelor's degree, you were that person. If you were a Black person with a bachelor's degree, you were even more to that level. And even now, I would say even graduate degrees now are becoming more watered down in a sense. And so now is more so a collection of how many you can get versus just getting one. And so I tell that story because, here's this man, this millennial. I don't even know, is he millennial or what's the next one? Xer? He's probably an Xer because he's like 20. 21.
He's probably what are we considered?
I think you're millennials, right?
Millennials, but millennials are Ys, I think. So I think Gen Z is coming up next.
So right? He's a Zer then. So he's under this impression that, hey, you know what? I'm worth X amount. And I'm telling him he's not. He's not worth X amount. And I think you have a lot of his generation now are thinking they are worth more than what they are. And so the problem is being that the situation that COVID has created has put them in a position in companies like myself who are now having to start people at, 19, $20 an hour that you don't need an education to do, that you don't need a trade to do. You essentially just need to be able to walk, breathe, and chew gum to be able to do this job. And I don't want to come off as me demeaning anybody's job, but let's just look at it from a purely physical standpoint. Is, are you worth what you're asking to be paid for? So I think, Bernie and team has described that, hey, you know what, we need to pay a living wage. $15 an hour is where we need to be. And so I will concede to the fact that yes, companies do need to look at their compensation packages and be able to spread their love around a bit more, right? They're getting enough tax breaks. You've got enough of the wealth income gap between the CEO and the lower man worker. There's enough in the kitty to do that. And so, but the question or the conversation is always around fast food. And not to defend fast food owners, you got to remember, a lot of your fast food owners are individual proprietors, right? They are franchisees of the company. And so you see Walmart as this big multi-billion, or not Walmart, but McDonald's is multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, whereas that Walmart down the street is owned by, Sanjeev. That was really racist. Sorry, not all Indians own stuff. You know what? I take that back. They do. They own shit. That's what they do. And we can talk about that too. That's a whole different story. But yeah, they come over here and they get franchises and they put all yeah. Anywho, so he owns the McDonald's down the street, and so he may not be pulling in, as an owner, he may not be pulling in $200,000-$400,000 a year. He may be pulling in 80, and that's on very slim margins if he's trying to. So he may not be able to afford to pay, his workers $15-$16 an hour. And that's when you start driving innovation. And that's when you start having, even stores like Walmart, right? So, the one that I go to has 2 registers now. 2, that's it. 2 physical registers that you can go to and have someone check you out. The other 38 registers are being manned by, 2 or 3 associates, and you got to scan your own shit, right? And so, there's the Hiram McDonald's. They've got kiosks. You just go in there, bump what you want, and you go and wait. They call your number, bam, bam, bam. You good to go, right? So I think we're going to hit this wall of where, we want to be able to hire and be able to bring people on and keep people employed. But if your demands become too great, where it doesn't make sense for me to run my business, then innovation is going to kill it. And so then what are you going to do, right? Well, you're stuck with nothing. So I think it's a very fine line that we have to walk. And I think it's, as organizations, they really need to look at that and determine, what it is they can pay or what they, to be able to be fair and equitable. But again, it's a business. They're in it to make money. They're not in it to make sure that Eugene or George can pay their light bill. That's up to Eugene and George to figure out. If the job that you're working does not afford you the opportunity to live the lifestyle that you want to, then you need to find something else, right? And it sounds easier said than done, and I get it. People will say, well, what about if you got kids, or what about if you got this and that, and well, you know how you got the kids. See, this is what I'm gonna sound real Republican at this point, but we make life decisions, and we've got to live by our life decisions, right, wrong, or indifferent. And so you've got to be able to accommodate for those decisions. But there's certain industries, your restaurant industries, fucking pay people. Stop giving them $2.13 an hour and having them, live off tips. All right, pay them a living wage, and then allow me to tip extra if I so desire to. If you need to raise your menu prices $1 or $2, okay. I'm saying, I don't know. What do you think? You okay with paying a little bit more if you're not obligated to pay a tip now?
Oh, yeah, probably so. It's such in our culture now. I don't know that it will ever go away.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. That's such a tough thing to kind of think about, right? So, we were discussing a little bit before our we started the cast. Hey, what about inflation? Is this a result of inflation? And I really do think that a part of this is that, right?
Mhm.
So we've had years and years of products outrunning income as far as inflation is concerned, right? So, and I think that that now in today's world, there's also more and more opportunities to build and grow wealth and all these different things. So I made the comment last week, unskilled labor is eventually going to be overcome by innovation, essentially. And I think that's what we're seeing. In my field, I'm in a sales role, so I get to talk to a lot of different people in a lot of different positions. And I most definitely talked to a company that said exactly what you just said. I can't find workers, so I'm gonna go and find automation. So if people don't want to work, I'll just go ahead and invest in automation that will replace these people.
True.
And so people don't understand that. I mean, this is. I mean, I believe this guy, for the most part, was a small business owner with a relatively good sized company. But I think I think another thing that I said last week was it's very short sighted for the individual contributor worker that is deciding to stay home because, hey, now we're in a situation where you're giving the business owner two choices: either close down or find a way around you.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to say, I'm going to shut my building down because people don't want to go to work. I'm going to just, bite the bullet, do more myself until I can figure out a way to make it easier and better for myself. So now, instead of having to pay you, worker, I'm just going to have to pay someone to maintain the machine that's going to do your job faster, better, quicker, and all I have to do now is just kind of make sure I stay within compliance. So you were talking about, do servers need to be paid a living wage? I absolutely believe so. I believe we should most definitely go to the European model where it's not expected. I think two things happen from that. One, you find a better quality employee because now they understand, hey, I can go to work on a Monday and a Wednesday and I can still make the same money that I would make on a Saturday and a Sunday, opposed to now having to work the weekends because people are going to be there at that point in time, try to find something else, Monday through Thursday because no one shows up for dinner on these different times and days. And you keep a loyal a loyal employee at that point in time, and then customers benefit on the other end because the expectation of a tip is no longer there.
Yeah.
And so if with that expectation gone, then yeah, we should be willing to pay an extra $1 or $2. Once again, labor is at a premium. And so people are getting paid more. And, I want to go back to what you said a little bit about the Bernie Sanders crew and talking about living wages, where I think this furthers my inflation bit, where if the minimum wage gets put to $15 an hour, that's about $30,000, right? So think about that person who's already making $30,000. Or is it $30,000 or $40,000? Maybe it's 40. I can't remember.
For $15?
Yeah,
that's 30.
Yeah, I think it's 30. Nonetheless, but the man that's making 30 is not going to be happy with making 30, especially if he works his way up to that. If he works his way up to that, and now the default is 30, right? So wages are going to have to go up regardless, is basically what I'm saying on that end and on that aspect. And once again, do I think it's right? Personally, I do. Eugene told you about his affiliations. And I think I'm very similar. I think Eugene was describing more libertarian than not in his thoughts, where I am very socially liberal, probably extremely socially liberal. I am personally fiscally conservative, but I believe that the government should be fiscally liberal, if that makes sense. So, so I do identify mainly with the liberal people, but at the same time, I do believe people should work.
Yeah.
And I believe that, you should always set yourself up for the next, you should continue to work, and you should gain experience. I'm not 100% bought into four-year colleges, at this point in time in my life and career, because I believe a two-year college can be just as lucrative. And I think these days and times, are showing that, if you haven't had to have a plumber come by, or electrician, or painter, or whatever, just go and call one of them.
Yeah.
If you get them on the phone, then they're going to charge you what they're going to charge you, and you can take it or leave it, because they probably have. Right. Because you'll be lucky to get them on the phone, and then two, if you won't pay somebody else, because people need them. So, and they're on short supply. So this is all a big cycle, and circle when it comes down to it.
So what do you feel about, so I've heard the sentiment that the people who are choosing to stay on unemployment are doing so because it's their way of protesting big business, big business, big corporations say, you need to pay us more. You need to pay us, what we're being made off of unemployment.
I think that's a poor way of looking at it.
Okay.
Personally, because you can't protest by sitting at home collecting a paycheck and not demanding anything of these people, right?
Okay.
Like I said beforehand, I mean, like, I get it if you're working there and you can actually affect them, especially big businesses. And basically what you're going to do, and what I think people are being very short-sighted about, is you're going to hurt the small business person who doesn't have the money to invest. And all you're going to do is choke them out, because one, if you don't come to work and if they don't have employees, it's much easier for them to close the doors, right? It's going to be much more difficult for Walmart to close the doors, because, hey, I don't need all of you folks, really, when it comes down to it, So, and just look at COVID times. It is showing you the reaction, right?
Yeah.
Everyone had to go home, and we had people who were considered essential workers. People got upset because people who are non-essential workers were getting paid and weren't working. So that, I'm sure we lost labor through that. And so what is Walmart doing? They're installing more self-checkouts. They're pushing online ordering. They're, probably right sizing. I mean, you can tell me right or wrong. They're probably right sizing their stores with things that are more popular. And then if you want specific things, you just order it online. So then they give you a time in which, you can receive your items, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. And so while you're sitting at home, quote unquote, protesting, all they're doing is adapting to your protest.
Yeah.
And it's not, and there's not enough of the people, and the only people who can really, quote unquote, protest are the people that are sitting in the stores, right? Those are the people that can protest.
Yeah.
Okay, you're expecting me at work. Now I'm not going to come to work, right? So now I'm not stocking your shelves. Now your shelves are going to be empty. All these other things. The person who wasn't there in the beginning, they're not missing.
Yeah.
You understand? We weren't missing you anyways. So now what we're going to do is what? What will we do? We'll push all the people that do come to work. We'll push them up to the night shift so they can stock more, so we can have more things on the floor. And we take that other person who was on a register and put them out on the floor during the day to stock the in stocks for the day. I mean, I am far removed from my retail days, but these are just some things that I would think about if I was in those positions, right? If I was in
Yeah.
that store manager, assistant manager, whatever role, and I still needed to keep keep my building up essentially. So I think that's a poor way, a very poor way of thinking about of quote unquote protesting, because they can't miss you if you're not there.
Yeah.
And you're not affecting any change if you don't even have, an effect on the story anyways. So, I think we as a society really need to think about how we react to, these different things. I will say it today and I'll say it for forever. The regular laborer today is being very short-sighted if they think, sitting at home collecting a paycheck is the right way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, guys. AMC is going to jump up maybe one day again. GameStop,
Oh, coin to the moon.
you're all in. Dogecoin, great, but all those things are cyclical, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know when to get out, and or maybe you don't have the time to wait.
Yeah.
Bills come every the first. That's what it is. It doesn't wait for AMC or GameStop to run up in order for you to pay it. So yeah, man, I don't contest to any of that. What do you think about that?
I call bullshit, and I say that because I asked that question because I asked, some of my own family members that same sentiment, and that's their response, right? Oh, they're just protesting, you need to pay them more, whatever. And to your point, you can't protest something that you're not there. One, and two is it's a double-edged sword, and I think we kind of talked about this last time. Is you're not hurting by sitting at home and collecting unemployment. You're not hurting businesses in a sense. You are hurting your fellow people who are working, right? Unemployment tax, while it does, corporations do pay into that. It is not a catch-all. So that additional $700 a week that you're getting, $300, whatever the amount was, that additional is coming from the taxpayer, right? And so you're forcing our hand to. I get it. I'm all about taxes and helping people when it makes sense. Where I struggle is when you got able-bodied people who are making a conscious decision to boycott the man, right? When they weren't, working for the man anyway. And so that's the part where I'm at, and I'm like, all right, nigga, come on now. Like, really? You're not hurting anybody. You're not hurting Mr. Walmart. You're not hurting Mr. Taco Bell by saying I'm not going to work. You're end up hurting the people around you, right? So, you look at even some of these fast food restaurants, the Taco Bell and Hiram, they're only open from like 2 to 10 because they don't have the staffing to do more. Popeyes, which I couldn't think could get any fucking slower, are even slower now. They close the inside, so they force you to go through the drive-through. It's a pinch point to like, all right, come on now.
Popeyes was already shortchanging everybody.
Exactly. So now you got Big Bertha back there trying to, fry chicken and run up the register at the same time. So, nah, come on, man. Like, y'all are just, what I call it is opportunist, right? You got opportunity. You got people who are mad at Bezos because this man, while people are suffering, is up there taking flights to space. He's coming down and saying, you know what, thank you to all my Amazon customers that paid for this, right? I have no hatred or ill will towards Bezos. That man found a lane. He exploited that lane, created it, innovated it, and he fucking made a lot of shit. He made a shit ton of money. And he's spending it as he should. It's his money. we're the one now. You can go back and forth and argue about his taxes and everything else. The man gave half of it to his ex-wife. You can take another half in taxes now, and he'll be just as rich as he is now, 3-4 months from now. So it doesn't, it's not, you're not gonna, you can't convince me that, oh, well, they're making all this money, so they have to, we're gonna hurt them because they're making all this money. That's capitalism.
Right.
That's where we are. You can't say, you can't criticize a system that is built to one that you would love to capitalize on. If you had that forthright, if you had that innovation, if you had that same ability to do what he did, you would do the same thing. So I don't hate on those folks. I do wish they would pay their taxes. I wish we had a system, and I'm all for a straight tax, but something that that puts them in a situation to pay the taxes just like I pay it. I don't have the ability. I wouldn't say they have the ability, but they've got the smartest people in the world working for them, figuring that out. So I don't have that knowledge or that income to do that. But yeah, no, I don't. You're not hurting anybody but the people around you. So get your ass to work, and then just affect change from the inside. I think companies are starting to see. My company, Walmart, we have given permanent raises and some temporary raises because we understand if we want to be able to be competitive, that's what we have to do. And so companies are going to start seeing that. Okay, all right, bet we're in the market. It's competitive. This is how business works, right? This is how competition works. This is how innovation works. So we're saying that we need to be innovative. We're saying that we need to be competitive. So we're gonna do something that allows us to be more competitive, right? And so companies are going to start seeing that. They're going to decide if they want to be competitive with wages or they want to be competitive with innovation. There's parts of my business that you cannot automate. There's parts of things that I do that you can't automate it. So you got to have somebody doing it. Bet. So how do we make sure that we retain we recruit top talent and we retain top talent? And so, and that a lot of that is compensation. Now, the part of it is company culture and how, those type things. So you still got to work on that, right? You can't say thank you to your employees by just buying them pizza once a quarter. You got to be able to create a more inclusive and diverse workforce that allows people to feel like they want to be here. So, I think companies are starting to understand that and start to build, kind of build themselves around those things. You're seeing a lot more companies starting to take social stances, which they hadn't in the past. Sometimes I think we can get a little too liberal in some of those stances. I seen something the other day. I meant to send it to y'all. They're wanting to change the nomenclature from breastfeeding to chest feeding because breast is such because it's a non-gender neutral term and it's not inclusive of non-conforming binary I don't want to say bullshit, but whatever that is. And so
Bring out my Trump hat.
And I'm just come on, man.
I want people to understand, as liberal as I am, and Lord, and I know this is most definitely a topic for another time. All the new people that are out here, all the new thems and theys and theirs. Oh Lord, you're gonna have to let us kind of work our way into this, guys. Because
you can't just stick that in there. You got to ease it in there.
Right. It is difficult. It is to say that you identify with something and then be upset with me for not guessing correctly. I think that's a little bit much.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I will call you whatever you want to be called. You want to be called donkey, if you want to be called chicken, you want to be called pig, I'll call you that. But you got to let me know that up front. Don't be upset when I see you being human and saying, hey, human, no, I identify as a pig. Please call me pig. Yes, pig. From this point forward, you are a pig.
I will
You
be.
know, you know. But I mean, and I don't mean to just once again, I don't mean to downgrade or diminish anybody who identifies as something different. But the the way that we are reacting as a culture to it, I think, or them reacting to it as a culture and then making it out as like this cancel-esque offense,
Yeah.
I think it's too much. I mean, that's just what it is.
Did you see all of, and I'll ask you this then, did you see all of what happened with the baby and his comments
So
towards the
I,
Q plus community?
I am I've heard, I have not seen with my own eyes. I did not hear with my own ears what he said. I heard it was very derogatory to the LGBTQ, all the other letters, and things along those lines. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. It was something about homosexuality and men's and AIDS and something to that effect. But what got me was the backlash that he received over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I mean, he had people pulling out left and right. He was losing money left and right. And I guess where I struggle with, and I can't necessarily be mad at the LGBT community because they have, boy, they have created an environment where it is more acceptable to be racist than it is to be homophobic.
You
And
110% right.
I don't understand it. Like I can literally go and call somebody a nigger. Well, not me, but a white person can go call somebody a nigger. They go put out a statement. Hey, I've learned from my ways. I've been taking classes and understand the error of my words and the harm that is caused, and that's it. But let me go call somebody a faggot. Oh, it's a wrap. It is done. We can no longer be associated with this person. He is a bigot to beyond belief. And I'm just like, yo, what in the world? Like I can literally be racist, but I can't be homophobic.
I would like for, I would love for Black people to take note on how the LGBTQ community works. And I will say, and I'm not, and obviously I'm not a part of the culture, but I guess I know a little bit about it. I don't think everyone gets along in the LGBTQ community gets along, but when it comes to sticking with one another,
Oh yeah.
I mean, they are just it. I mean, that's the way that it's supposed to be done. If we took the same stance, I mean, and you got to think about it, the LGBTQ community is what, 2% of the world. I mean, of the United States, something like that, 2%. Here, Black people are what, strong 10, maybe.
I think we're like 13, 14, somewhere up there.
Okay, somewhere around those. I mean, think about how much change could have come by now had we taken a similar style stance.
Yeah.
Right. Making the buck stop here. Not, having all these dissenters and letting people prop them up and all these other things, like, wow.
Yeah, because you don't have the Candace Owens or the Hodges twins of the LGBT community. Right. They don't exist. They are a united front like none other.
Right.
But for us, nah, we have dissenters. We've got folks who, we've got the mayor of Minneapolis, or not mayor, the sheriff from Minneapolis, that Black dude with the bald head and little mustache thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the little pockets, and the thing about it is, I mean, they had the little sheriff guy from, I think, Texas, Sheriff Clark, with the bushy mustache and all this other stuff, and all these other cats, and mainly white people prop these guys up.
Yeah.
right? Then that's just what they do. And because that's their, I mean, I would say dissenters, right? They are used in order to be that counter so that they weaken the overall cause, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, the 12.9% feel, understand, and act this way. And then we have the 0.01% that are being propped up by essentially the majority.
Yeah.
To be say, well, if these guys aren't oppressed, how are you oppressed? Or if these guys don't experience systematic racism, how do you experience systematic racism? And and that's what you don't see with the LGBTQ community. Okay, if you're out there, then then you're not a part, you're not with us, and we're not going to allow anyone else we're not going to let anybody else prop you up. There hasn't been one gay person that has come by and said, well, you know what, the baby was right. Have you heard it? Yeah. I haven't heard anyone. Yep. But let some Black person get online or something like that, talk about systematic racism and how it works and this, that, and the other. You'll have a Candace Owens, you'll have a Hodge twins, you'll have these other mayors, you'll have the Tim Scotts, you'll have all these other guys that are out there. Oh, well, I just don't know. The Herschel Walkers, all these people. Given the counterpoint. So essentially it makes white people feel good. And I guess they get paid for whatever they do. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I wish someone would do a really strong case study on, counterculture, because I mean, DaBaby has lost a lot of money. Matter of fact, I don't know the last time I heard his songs on the radio.
I'm telling you, they have pulled this man from everything.
Right. And so
he was on like 18 different tours, all of them canceled.
Right. People pulling out. I mean, I feel sorry for you, baby. Baby, sorry, but that unfortunately, and here I'm putting my libertarian hat on. That's the risk you take when you say certain things.
Yeah.
We're a market economy. We're these are the things, what we've done to DaBaby as a society is what people should be doing to, Walmart, Amazon, all these other people, when you're wanting change, right? Yeah. You're hitting them where it hurts. DaBaby is hurt because he is no longer making this money anymore, right? Now, if you're one that thinks, what, Walmart's not paying employees enough, then you go someplace else. You go and give all your money to Target, or you give all your money to Amazon because, hey, they are paying their people a living wage, or you give them to a small business owner, and you choke them out, because in the end, these people, you're not going to completely choke, the big box guys out.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's all about sales, right? They can only fire so many people. Sales, the VP of sales, if he's not bringing year over year sales, because they've got bad press and all these other things, you don't think that a vice president of sales or vice president of marketing and all these HR folks are going to be feeling the pressure to make change at that point in time? That's how you go about doing it.
Yeah.
And so,
you're right.
So as much as I hate it for DaBaby, it's one of those things where it's just like, yo, bro, that's life.
Yeah.
I hope you save some of that money. I hope you invested some of that money, but I don't think they're gonna let you come back.
But it's crazy how much it evolved. I was trying to figure out what exactly he said, but it made me think of this one lyric. So you remember "Go DJ" from Lil Wayne, and this was back when we were in college, right? And so it was something to the effect of, Lil Wayne said something about you homo niggas getting AIDS in the ass or something to that effect, right? Lil Wayne wasn't canceled back in 2004, 2005. It was Go DJ was like the hit. Like you heard that in every single club, everywhere you went on the radio, that was that song, right? And he kept it moving. And I think, and I can't find it, but I think the baby said something similar to that. But that was 2004. Here's 2021. So almost 10 years later, or almost 20 years later. And he is all of but done in the pop culture rap world game or whatever. Like he's got to go in hiding for a bit. He's got to wait for folks to forget what he said. And then you really forget what he said and try to appease and come back, right? And so, but I am just so amazed at the LGBT community. They they have done, which Black people, they have done in say 20 years, what I'm going to say 25 years, what Black people have failed to do in over 300 years, right? Like they have, but here are the two things that we are missing as Black people that they've done. One, they understand what change, how to enact change, right? So they get out, they vote, they put people in office that mean their agenda and carry out their agenda. And if they don't, then they vote them out and get somebody else in there, right? And then they start taking all these cases to the Supreme Court. Every single time you've got an incident that involves a gay person or part of that community that can keep going up and up and up, let's take it to the Supreme Court. Let's let the Supreme Court tell us that you can't, that somebody can tell me they can't make me a cake because I'm gay. Or let the Supreme Court tell me that I can't get married because I'm gay. Let them tell me that. Tell me that that is unconstitutional for that. They forced their hand, right? They put the Supreme Court in a situation like, well, damn. Like, we don't talk about gay folk. The Constitution doesn't say anything about being gay, because at that time, why would you need to address sexuality, right? And so they're like, yeah, y'all are right. They can't do that, right? But the fact that we've had to go through, how long did it take us to get the amendments to allow Black women to vote or allow Black people to vote, right? The other day we celebrated the adoption of the 19th Amendment, I think, that allowed women to vote. But at the end of with that amendment, Black women still couldn't vote, right? And so, over this last 25 years, gay people have gotten the right to, they've already been able to vote, but they've gotten the right to get married. They've gotten the right to be able to, live their lifestyle in the military, which they had a very strong, don't ask, don't tell policy for the longest time. They have built a culture around it being more, it's, I guess, wrong to be homophobic than it is to be racist, right? But the 2 points I was making is, one, they understand how to enact change, and two, what you brought up is they stick the fuck together. They don't dissent. They don't, even though the idea of LBGTQ, whatever is, it doesn't mesh, right? Because you've got one faction that says, yes, I am a male and I believe in the gender role of male. However, I'm attracted to the gender roles of males, and that makes me gay. And you got the other half of it that says, well, there is no such thing as gender, is all a social construct and all this other bullshit that all this other stuff that they say. Don't cancel me. But it's a social construct, and that we should be fluid, and you should be able to be whatever you want to be. And I agree. You can do whatever you want to do. I do disagree that, there's, whether we agree or disagree on the roles of males and females play, you're not going to convince me that because that if you're born with a penis, that doesn't make you a male, physically a male. That's just how you feel is how you feel, but there's one or the other. And don't give me this, well, some people are born with both. That's like 10,000ths to one that actually happens. But anyway, that's another side of the thing. But what I'm saying is that they don't have these disagreements, at least in public. They stick to their guns, and they're going to support their fellow man or woman or cisgender in between, whatever you want to call it. out in public, and they're going to back them up, and they will make sure that they make it really uncomfortable for you. And we've said this, or I think I've said this on many of casts before, is that Black people, we got to find a way to make this shit uncomfortable. You know, we've made it too lax. You know, we've put so much onto the word of nigger that now we think that if you don't, long as you don't say nigger, then you're not racist, right? But we don't all the other stuff that goes along with being racism and creating a system that systematically keeps you down, or making sure, or providing just enough aid to make sure that you don't work your full-time job, so we can keep you dependent on the system, and we can keep you all these different things, you know, that they do, that we don't consider racism because they don't put the word nigger in front of it. And so, you know, the LGBTQ community has done this, the complete opposite. Yeah, they have demonized the word faggot, and, you know, that's just as harmful as the word nigger. But now all of these other factions that are part of the homophobia are now just as homophobic as that word, you know, not making a cake for somebody, or not wanting to provide service for somebody, or, you know, somebody making a statement that has, I don't want to say has an element of truth, because I don't know I can't say exactly what he said, but, you know, we know that back in the early 80s or late 80s, early 90s, mid 80s, 90s, that, you know, the AIDS or HIV ran through the homosexual community. That is a fact. Now, you know, is that a thing now? No, it's everybody. Oh, and say everybody got it, but it is not it's not exclusive to the LGBT community. Now, they may have a higher propensity of it from, you know, whatever studies maybe they support that, but we're not here to discuss that, because that doesn't impact me at all. But at the end of the day, they have put themselves in a light to where anything that will paint a LGBTQ person in a negative light is a homophobic stance, and you will be canceled because of that. And we will make sure you're canceled of that. And so whether I think is right or wrong, that's indifferent. As I see, as Black people, we need to keep that same energy. If you're going to hold us back, if you're going to do things that are inherently racist, just because you don't say nigger, then we need to be just as steadfast. We need to be just as together to get there, but we won't. I mean, maybe you have a lot more optimism than I do. I don't think we'll get there. As long as you've got your Allen Keys and your Owens and your Hodges and your all these other Tim Scotts and everybody else, as long as you got Black people with a voice, or Black people that are given a voice, that don't agree or don't think that there's these things in place, or as long as you got Black people that, you know, you allow that one Black person to get rich, and now, oh, well, look at P. Diddy, he's up there. Look at Rihanna, she's up there. Look at Jay-Z, she's up there. You take 10 people, you know, who are Black that are billionaires on a list of 500. Or if you look at these 10 Black people who are billionaires, they don't own 100% of their companies. They've just bought into shares of somebody else's company. You know, I didn't know, the other day I found out that Fenty, you know, Rihanna's brand that she's that's made her a billionaire, she owns 49.1% of it, or 9% of it. A white man who owns Louis Vuitton owns the other 51% of it, the controlling share of her own company. Right? So, you know, the white man, it was the Kanye West say the white man get paid off for all of that. So we really don't, you know, it's almost like they allow us to exist, and we'll give you that one. But at the end of the day, we still run this shit. So
yeah, no, I think that, and it's probably for another time, but I think that is a excellent excellent kind of viewpoint that I think our the white counterparts don't understand.
Yeah.
Right. So, what do you hear whenever you're talking about, I've heard it a number of times with LeBron James in particular,
Yeah.
who I think is a wonderful individual, not the GOAT, but a wonderful individual, the GOAT of people, I guess, maybe, I don't know. And so, what white people will say is, how is he going to sit here and talk about oppression and X, Y, Z, and so on and so forth?
Mm-hmm.
And he's making, millions upon millions of dollars. And it's just like, him being successful is not a product of oppression. Does not mean that he was any less oppressed. Does not mean that he didn't come from people who weren't oppressed. There's this, I don't, maybe, one of the things that I will call him the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said at one point in time was, we shouldn't.
He's an Omega now too. Just as y'all know. Oh, that's Louis Farrakhan, not Elijah.
I'm gonna say, huh?
My bad.
Like,
My bad.
Say, hold on now. That I could have sworn Elijah Muhammad is dead.
No,
so unless you all did it from the grave.
Yeah, no. That's Louis Farrakhan. My bad.
But he, I'm going to butcher what he said, but I can just give you the sentiment. He basically said, don't fear the white man. You should learn from him.
Mm-hmm.
And because basically he's made all this stuff and he's been able to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's aspects of that we need to learn from, opposed to fearing and trying to create new, or trying to butcher our way into different things, right? And so, it's one of those things where you constantly hear the same thing over and over again. So you kind of almost get back to that LGBTQ style messaging, right? Yeah. Where it's like, any white person that is, I would just say a MAGA type person, right? It's going to be, you're not oppressed. You were never a slave. God,
I hate that whole. You weren't a slave, and I wasn't no slave owner. So
right, and typically, my ancestors were too poor to own slaves. If no one ever, like, there was only 3 people who owned slaves, and they all had to be filthy rich in order to do so. And it's like, well, okay, then who are these 3 people then? who people did? But it's consistent.
Yeah.
And it's what they say, and it's what they'll regurgitate over and over and over again. They'll have nothing to back it. Once you challenge them and you get really deep into it, then they want to straw man and talk about the ones and twos, right? Yeah. They want to talk about LeBron James and how he's successful. They want to talk about the Jay-Z's and how he's successful, and how they can't be oppressed because they have made a success, or they are successful. And it's almost, infuriating, right? Yeah. It's like, just because we understand that Black people have to take a tougher road doesn't mean that we're going to stop to live in drudgery, essentially, to prove our point. No, we're going to still work our hardest. We're still going to invest. We're going to still do different things to better our situation. But we need people to understand that it shouldn't be this difficult for one group of people. Yeah. When everyone else has an easier road. All we're asking for is for everything to be on an equal playing field. That's just what it is. Will that make it difficult, and will it be uncomfortable at first? Yeah, because you're gonna have to make some really tough decisions. You're gonna have to purposely bring on someone who doesn't look like you, and who you probably didn't think about 10 years ago as being someone that sat next to you on that board of directors, or in that VP spot, or that chairman spot, and things along those lines. You're gonna have to make a conscious decision. Yeah. And you're gonna have to look and find for someone that can do the job, and it's not just gonna be a billboard, essentially.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to make a conscious effort to do so, and you're going to have to find current board members, who are going to have to make that conscious decision as well, right?
Yeah.
But the I guess the common theme for this podcast is, if you find companies that are not willing to do so, then the only people that can make these people change is you and I.
Yeah.
But it'll never happen if we don't stick together. It will never happen if we don't go as a united front to enact that change. Amazon can be gone tomorrow. Amazon was nothing, was barely anything just 20 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, back when they were just a book, when they were just a book, I don't even know what to
Essentially,
call
it's
them.
the online library.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an online library, things along those lines. Same thing with Walmart. I mean, Walmart has always, at least as long as I've known, they've always been a big company. They've never been to this scale. I would have thought, with all the adaptations that Walmart would have had, I would have thought Kmart would have been right there with them. They were not. They did not.
They couldn't.
Right. And so it takes the people to build these things,
Mm-hmm.
and it will take the people to destroy them. But once again, it takes all of us opposed to some of us, and that's just what it is.
But we'll never get there. That's just. I mean, I think that's the. I don't think we want it. I don't know. I think we do want it bad enough, but is it? I think Black people are just at a point that we're so comfortable in what we've got going on, to where it's do I want to disrupt my comfort to maybe not have an impact to me, but it may impact other people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just kind of, because you do have enough, Black people who are comfortable. They work their 9 to 5. They make their, their $100,000 a year. They go on their 2 vacations a year. They got a 2.5, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, in a house. Like they live a comfortable life, as long as they don't say anything or do anything outside the way, Karen at work is going to leave them alone. And so I think they like, well, why do I need to rock the boat? And, we don't take it personal enough. Whereas, the LGBT community, they take it personal. You attack one of us, you attack all of us. And, it just seems like we have that sentiment. Well, they're talking about them niggas over there, not these niggas over here. They're talking about the broke niggas. We're just, we're doing all right. And so I think that's kind of the disconnect that we have. And unfortunately, I don't see it changing. As much as I would love to, I think that we would need, we should have a uniter out there. I don't know if we have a voice. Well, I don't even think we need a voice. I just think we're too damn selfish. That's what it comes down to, And this would be actually a perfect segue to our next conversation, because now we can get into why Sanjeep and family own all these retail stores and gas stations and all of that, and why you're, and I don't know, I might get canceled for saying this, because I think somebody get canceled for saying that Jewish people are like rich and something to that, and frugal. Who was that? Wasn't that like Diddy or somebody?
No, Diddy canceled. I think Nick Cannon got.
Nick Cannon. That's
right.
But
he's been saying a lot of different things.
Yeah.
He also said Black people are the first Jews and all this other stuff. And I mean,
is he one of those Hotep, like Black Israelite people?
I think he's skating on that if he's not.
Okay.
I don't really subscribe to Nick Cannon a lot, so I don't know exactly everything that he says. But he said something along those lines, where it's like, how can I be anti-Semitic when I was the first?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Lines. And I don't know. I mean, Jewish people, and I think there's a lot of, a lot of also Christian people who do a really solid job of sticking up to that anti-Semitic bit as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, maybe for another time, I guess, for when it comes to that. But yeah, we can talk about
that'd be a whole subject there.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about why certain groups of people come over and are more successful than others.
Yeah,
that's the way we should structure it. instead of using names of people who we perceive.
But I mean, we can. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about it then, because I can go on a whole rant about that. So I'm with it.
All right. Well, that's our time, folks. We've been on here too long as is. Hour and some change.
Oh wow. Oh yeah.
And we appreciate you all. So next week we'll probably talk about once again different folks and what they bring over on their boat. And and we'll go from there. I know I've seen a couple things talking about relationships. I enjoy talking about relationships. So I may
see if we can get your girl to actually come on now.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Go ahead and try that.
I'll ask her and see. She probably want a speaking fee.
If I pay you, you got to answer every question I ever ask. I'm talking about, I'm digging deep.
I'm with it.
I take $1 off every question you refuse to answer.
I'll hit her back up and see what's speaking fit is in on her schedule.
Speaking fee. Okay. Well, you know what? You do that. You already know I'm about to get out of that.
I'm with it.
All right.
So
all right, folks,
appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yes.
And we'll do it again next week.
Yes, sir. See you all.